For me, when I started this, it was all about vanquishing my father. All of it was about making him proud.
So that's what you did. You set out to do that.
That's what I was trying to do. And then I think that throughout my adolescence, I realized that it was something that was always going to be withheld from me. So it didn't matter what it was. The goalpost would always move so that...
He would never be proud enough?
Right. And it was and it was because he wanted the most out of me. And so if I got, let's say, a 99 on a test, it wasn't congratulations, it's what'd you get wrong. Cool. I'm very happy with my life.
Yeah.
And I realized that. And so this desire to gain approval turned into a very deep anger. And so...
Towards the world, him, yourself, other people?
Mostly him. And most, him and myself probably split. Probably 50-50, you know what I mean? And so it was my earlier, I'll say, quote, success was purely fueled by rage. It wasn't
so funny,
it was rage. You know what I mean?
I was in the same boat, yeah.
Yeah, and it was but there was probably some element of me that just almost enjoyed the suffering, because I just would get in this space when you ask how did I feel by getting the extra $20,000 a month. First, my goal was to make as much as my dad, and then it was to make more than my dad, and then it was to make more than my dad had ever made in his whole life.
Wow.
And so once I had done that, I wanted the success to be unquestionable. There couldn't be a but, there couldn't be an asterisk. It had to be so undeniable that vanquishing was the word, right?
Wow.
And so for a 5-year period after I quit my job, my dad did not support, he didn't support me quitting my job.
Why not? Even though you were off making money and building a business and...
Because he's like, what are you, a gym owner? He's like, you went to Vanderbilt, you were on a management consulting career. You got above Harvard's mid score for your
You could have had a
GMATs.
credible career.
Of course,
right.
Gym owner doesn't sell well on cocktail parties,
right?
He's figuring himself out.
He's doing this little gym as a side thing.
Yeah. He'll snap out, right? And so, I made plenty of mistakes too when I had the gym. So it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for me. I had a lot of mess ups that I did. I got in bad partnerships. All the things that you could possibly do. And over that 5-year period of me scaling to 6 locations with my facilities, at the end of that whole thing, I ended up losing it all. I lost everything because I took all the sale money and I put it into my last location, and then the partner that I had there siphoned the money out. Because I was I'll put all the money from the sale of these gyms into this thing. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It was my own mistake. It was on me. But it was, even then it was, we'll see how long, this isn't real, we'll see. And then once Gym Launch really started taking off, it wasn't until I think we did 17 million in EBITDA, profit take home.
In 1 year?
In 1 year, that my dad, I was 27.
That's crazy.
Yeah. my dad called me and he's like, "Are you sitting down?" And I remember at this point, we were not talking too much. You know what I mean? Maybe every few months it'd be a 5-minute phone call. And so I was like, "Sure, yeah, I got time. What's up?" And he's like, "You're gonna want to hear this." And I was like, "Okay, what?" And he was like, "I'm sorry." And it was the first time he'd ever apologized to me in my life. And what's interesting to me though is that it didn't feel like anything. I didn't care.
Why not?
Because I had stopped caring about what he thought about me a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And it was when I quit my job was the day that I accepted dying to my father.
Wow.
Because very much to me at that point was I was really, really sad at that point in my life when I had the job, because I had really done everything that he had wanted me to do. I finished Vanderbilt in 3 years as president of fraternity. I had won writing awards. I'd done I'd done everything. You know what I mean? I was vice president of the powerlifting team.
Every club,
all the stuff I could possibly do. Yeah,
finish
it. While still being president, and did it in 3 years, right? And got a management consulting job that was a good job, had all the credibility, and I knew it wasn't enough, and I knew that, and so I knew that the choice for me was that I either had to die to him or I had to die to myself.
Wow.
And that was ultimately the choice that I put in front of myself. And that was whenever I was maybe I should just die to him or die to you. And so that was what gave me the confidence to break that. And then I physically moved because I couldn't be in the same area.
Wow.
So I actually...
You were 23 at this point? Or 20?
Yeah. So I called my dad when I was in Ohio. And I was from Baltimore.
That's
so I'm
it
was for you.
Yes,
I called him when I was there and I was like, "Hey, by the way, I'm doing the gym thing." And he was like, okay. It's like, why don't you come over? We'll talk about it. Because he knew that if he came over with enough battering, I would be like, fine, I know this is a smart thing. I'll take I'll apply to, Booth and Harvard, whatever, and I'll do that whole thing. And because that was a cycle. I just kept doing that. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to do it. So I was like, well, I can't. I'm in Ohio. He was like, what do you mean? And then the tone totally shifted. And he was like, you always do these crazy things. And you're always he's like, you're never balanced. It's always extreme with you. There's no middle path, blah, blah, blah. And so, anyways, I did that 5 years gyms, lost it all anyways. And then started Gym Launch. And then that really took off.
Sure.
And then, but when he called me and he apologized, and this is where I'm ashamed of myself, but I could have just let it lie and been like, thanks, appreciate it,
What'd you do instead?
Instead, I was like, when people get up on stage and they're like, hey, they get awards and they're like, hey, mom and dad, I just want to say thanks so much for always believing in me. I was like, I won't say that.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, because you never did. I was like, the only time you accepted me, I was like, was once every other person on this planet had accepted it too.
Oh my gosh, man.
And so
so
I said that.
That's intense. On the phone, you said that?
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
He said, well, we'll see how long it lasts.
Oh my gosh.
So that was...
So he was still kind of in competition with you.
Yeah, and to be fair, when he apologized, he said, I'm sorry. He said, but in my defense, if it had been in my time, I would have been right. And so, but all that to say, I should have just said, appreciate the apology, thank you. Because, Tony Robbins said something that I thought was really impactful, was for the vast majority of my life, it's been how my father shaped me or whatever. But rather than thinking what can I use from this dynamic? What gift do I have?
Yeah, from his mother, kind of beating him or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. What do I, they're blaming for the good, right? And so I have so many things to blame for good from that, and I'm very, very happy with my life. That is why $20,000 a month didn't feel significant to me, because the goal that I had, my expectations weren't to make money. My expectation was that I had to make more than he had ever made. And so I had a very big vacuum to drive towards, which I think in a lot of ways was a gift, because I blew past 100,000 a month, 500,000 a month, million a month. I blew past those things because it was never about having enough money for me. It was about feeding this monster. But once I got there, I realized that what I had done was set up a game to win by my father's rules.
Ooh.
And so then
And you could never win.
Right. And to be fair, would I want to win a game that wasn't for me?
And it was making you suffer.
Sure.
You're playing the wrong game.
I'm playing his game.
Yeah.
And so I did win, but I won at his game, not mine.
Right.
And so that was kind of what I think making that realization was kind of the slow shift that happened from there.
So when you won the financial game, or the game of I've made more than you've in a month or a year than you've made your whole lifetime. Yeah. How did that make you feel? And when did you realize you needed to start playing a different game? And what would that game become?
Okay. There was 3 questions there. What was the first one?
How did it make you feel the moment you crossed the finish line of the game of making so much more than he'd ever made in a short amount of time?
Relief, because we actually got our relationship back. Not I wouldn't say we have sunshine and rainbow, but we have a functioning relationship. I would say it's role-based. I'm a,
Yes.
But what happened was we are both very strong personalities, and it wasn't until I think that he accepted me as alpha in our relationship that we were able to kind of move forward again. Because before that, my dad's he's a doctor, so he's always had decent money, and I wanted to be beholden to no one, including him. I didn't want his money. I didn't want anything, and so I think I had to establish my own. I had to really plant my own flag to be seen as a man in his eyes. And so I think once that happened, I think I felt there was some level of there's no conflict here anymore. This is undeniable.
Yeah.
This is beyond reproach.
Yes.
I have a attractive wife who's really nice and awesome. I have a business to make fun of. I'm in good shape. And if you think about it, the way, I'm just being really real with you. I blame my father for the many things that I have become in a lot of ways, right? Because everything that was not perfect was criticized, right? And so I've had a 6-pack since I was 15.
Wow.
And it was because he used to always criticize everyone who was overweight, and being that they're undisciplined and they don't try hard, right? And then and then it was about having pretty good, nice, everything, perfect women, right?
Yes.
Not just pretty, but everything has to be perfect, right? And then making lots and lots of money. And so it's all of these elements I had to max out to again win at that game. But my whole life was designed to be bulletproof. Was that so that I just wouldn't be criticized. And so that was because that was what I knew that if I could criticize myself harder than anyone could, then if they did say anything, it was never as mean as what I would say to me.
What's the meanest thing you say to yourself?
Oh, like, it's all around just not being good enough.
Right now?
You know what I mean? Oh, not now.
Okay.
Not now.
But
I would
that's what
say,
it was, yeah.
100%.